Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Sara. Today's conversation is going to be a rather personal one. We're going to talk about my path through spiritualism and becoming a witch. Well, I always knew I was, but acknowledging being a witch. I've thought about this video for a few days now, trying to determine the framework that I wanted to use. Because my path isn't the cliched narrative of being in the dark, hitting enlightenment, and then now I'm who I am. It was more of a pathway of enlightenment, affirmation, and validation. So, an evolutionary path. But I want to start by talking about the word witch, because that is a word filled with power. And it's filled with power because it gives off an energy depending on who hears the word. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can frighten someone. It invokes many images, and they're all different based on the person who hears this word. So there's a lot to overcome and unpack. There's a lot of information out there about witches and witchcraft, which, by the way, men, women, and everyone in between can be a witch. Being a witch is, for me, is knowing your place in the universe and the connectivity of the energy around you and how to channel that energy and use it. Certainly can be used for evil. There are evil people in this world. It's a fact. But that doesn't mean that all witches are evil, because they're not. Man gave the word witch a lot of power because they used it to subjugate and oppress and murder people. People that didn't quite fit in with society, people that didn't fit in with the norm. It was mostly women who were murdered during the big purge of witches, which occurred from the 1400s into the 1700s, all across the UK, Europe, and here in the United States with the Salem witch trials. Outspoken women, women with strong opinions, women who had the ability to heal people with herbs and plants and alleviate suffering, for some reason evoked fear in society. Mostly men, because men ran society, still do for the most part. And they decided to squash them and stop this tide. I think it speaks to some of what we see today, this idea that you can be afraid of something that's good for you and embrace something that's bad for you. We see that with the vaccine, for instance. You know, the vaccine is not going to hurt you badly. It's actually proven to be very safe, and it will keep you from getting COVID. COVID, on the other hand, you may get through it without much, but it may kill you. And it may not kill you today, but it may lead to something that will kill you later. And yet people are more afraid of the vaccine than they are of something that is very, very bad for them, that they don't even know how bad it can be for them. So it's that same mindset, being afraid of women, predominantly women, who had ways about them and a power about them that was for good. Doesn't make any sense. But that being said, that's how I feel about witches. If you want to learn more about becoming a witch yourself, or you would like to learn more about what it means to be a witch, you can start with this really great article. We'll put the link in the bio. The Atlantic magazine. It had an article called Why Witchcraft is on the Rise. It was written in March 2020. So it's fairly new. And they kind of talk about, when people are feeling oppressed and things aren't going well, we turn back. We turn back to what we've known all along, and we embrace that path. So let's switch gears and we'll talk about my pathway through spirituality. And I will begin by saying, I'm 57 years old. Most of my life, there was no such thing as internet. There was no Google. There was no social media platforms in which to find your tribe. There wasn't an easy way to validate what you felt and what you were thinking. You had to use books, magazines, possibly see something on TV. So a lot of what I'm going to tell you about are books that I read, because I read all the time. I still do. We'll begin with the fact that there's always been a knowing. By that, I mean, I've always known how I viewed nature and how I felt about the world around me. My earliest memories of my childhood, and I must have been 4, 5 maybe. I was living in a house on a hill in the outskirts of town. The house was made of rock. It was pretty cool. It's long since burned down. But I would spend my time out in the yard talking to the trees. And I mean really talking to the trees, as though they were people. I pretended that they were my parents. I told those trees everything. My dreams, my hopes, everything. And one tree in particular that I will never forget, because I made myself not forget that tree. This was a tree that I loved so much, and I would spend most of my time with that tree. And I never wanted to forget it. So here I am, 4 years old, staring at the bark of this tree, nose almost pressed up to it, imprinting it on my mind, because I never, ever wanted to forget this tree. It was a promise I made to that tree. And to this day, I close my eyes and I can see the bark pattern. And it's because of that, as I became an adult, I was able to look it up and discover that the tree that I love so much was a white ash, which has a very interesting bark pattern to it. But you see, as a child, I instinctively knew, but I couldn't articulate that knowing. I couldn't tell you what it was that I felt. It just felt right. And nature has always been very important to me. I always feel, to this day, more comfortable by the water, any type of water, ocean, lake, river, out in the woods, out where I can be around nature. And I remember 10 years old getting my glasses for the very first time. I walked out of the vision center and it was drizzling. Just a little drizzle rain. I was living in Orlando at the time. And I looked up and I could see the individual raindrops. I didn't think that was possible. I was mesmerized. I just stood there as the rain was falling on my glasses and my face. My mother had to grab me. She put me in the car. I was astounded. I could see individual leaves on the trees. And that night, I had to run outside so I could look up and see the stars. For the first time in my life, I could see the stars for myself. Not pictures, not on television. And the moon. I fell in love with the moon. I could see the faces, the man on the moon, the shadows, the craters. I had only just seen a white blob in the sky. I mean, I knew what the moon looked like, again, from pictures on TV, but to see it for myself, that was magic to me. And I've never stopped looking at the moon, paying attention to the moon ever since. There's a book that I read that I will apologize because I don't remember the name of it. I was in elementary school when I read it. But it was a woman telling about her near-death experience. And most of it I've forgotten. But there was one passage that she wrote, and she only gave it a paragraph or two. But I didn't forget it because I went ding, ding, ding. Yes. She talked about being able to see energy flowing from the trees and swirling all around her. And that's when I put it together and I said, this is what I feel. I can't see it, but I can feel it. It's the energy of the trees. That was a good aha moment for me along the way. And then there was the Bible. And I have read the Bible. I've taken classes on religion. And I've gone to several different types of churches. So I've got a somewhat of an idea. And, we all find comfort where we find comfort. And that's okay. I'm not going to speak about religion. I'm just going to say that of all the books of the Bible, the one that called to me, the one that I read more than once, was the book of Revelation. The mysticism, the symbolism, it just tugged at me. And I continued to read it throughout my teenage years as well. So that was an important book to me of the Bible. Next, I want to talk about a man who is my hero, who I just love, and I have for a very long time. His name is Carl Sagan. He's an astrophysicist. And he said something about the cosmos. It's a very famous quote that when I heard him say it, my heart just burst and my mind was, He said, the cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself. And for me, as a young woman, teenage girl, that concept that I was part of the universe, that I was made of star stuff, that just inspired me. It validated all the things I had been thinking. And I, as I said, fell in love with Carl Sagan. He was so smart and could take abstract ideas and simplify them. I read all of his books, his nonfiction, his fiction books. I watched him on TV every chance I got. Now, you go back to watch his shows on YouTube, and it's kind of corny, the special effects and things that they use, but his message is what rings true. He also has another quote that filled me with hope and still fills me with hope to this day. And that quote is, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." And I found that so hopeful, because that's that thirst for knowledge, that idea that there is so much more that we don't know, so much more that we can't see or even fathom in the moment is out there just waiting for us. That just fills me with hope and inspiration. And that speaks to what I see as spirituality. Look him up, find him. Another man that you may find of interest, who had a couple of series and some books along the same line, was a man named James Burke. And he has a series called Connections and another series called The Day the Universe Changed. And it's all about random things that come together and change how we perceive the world and how we do things. And his focus is science and technology mostly, but it is an interesting way of how we evolve and how that concept of there's so much more out there and so much that we can tap into. So, check him out. When I was a little older and took a college class on philosophy, we used the book called Sophie's World. And Sophie's World is the history of philosophy, but it's told in a story form. So it's heavy reading. It's Norwegian translated into English, but it is fascinating. And one of the concepts in Sophie's World that I still hold on to and I reference a lot is this idea that most humans crave safety and security. So it's like we're living on the back of a rabbit, burrowed deep in the fur, nice and warm and dark and safe. But we know nothing but that fur. Although there are a few of us who will crawl up the fur just to see what's out there, just to see if there's anything more. And some people crawl out on that fur and they get scared. They get scared by the unknown. They get scared by the chaos that they see, and they hurry and crawl back down. But then there's others of us that are standing on the edge of the fur, just loving it, thrilled and excited at this great big universe that has surrounded them. So that's me. I stand on the edge of the fur. I love it. I love that idea of being part of something that is bigger than I could ever imagine. But those who choose to stay buried in the fur and stay warm and safe, that's okay. That's fine. If it makes you happy and you found your safe space and your safe space is there, that's okay. I'm just talking about me and my perception of life and my spirituality. When I was in nursing school, and those of you who know me know I didn't become a nurse until I was 35, so I was a bit older. And this kind of aha moment during nursing school was the connectivity of all things. You see, nursing schools always teach off of a nursing theorist, and they adapt a nursing theorist, and they use that as their platform for how they're going to teach nursing theory and nursing practice and all of that, the foundation. So my school used the Betty Newman systems theory, which I thought was kind of cool because it's all about we're all part of a big system and that your system affects your health. But in class, to help explain what systems theory is based on, the instructors showed us a movie called Mind Walk. And it's a very interesting movie. It's not a blockbuster, although Sam Waterston and John Hurd are in it. And it is a movie that talks about the big picture systems theory. And it was never a blockbuster because it's three people talking about philosophy. And they do it in different places throughout the course of the day. But it meant a lot to me because what they were saying and how they thought was how I feel and how I think. So another validation, this is coming full circle again. And I continue to have these aha moments and moments of, yes, others out there feel the same way. So for me, this journey and this path has not been all of a sudden a light switch flipped. It's something I've always known and I've always felt. My identity, my belief system. Now, I tried to be what society wanted me to be. I'm the oldest, so I was always the adult in the room, the oldest child in my family, the adult in my family. And I had a lot of burdens that way. I tried to fit in, and I have a professional persona. But I reached a point where I said, it's okay. This is who I am. And these are the things that I believe. And it's all right. If you don't agree with me, okay. There's things that many people out there believe that I don't agree with, but it doesn't matter because we all have to find our own way. We all have to find our own path. I truly believe that our energy is connected and that when we pass away, we're just passing on to another phase. Our energy is just moving back out there into the universe again because science will tell you nothing disappears. It just changes its state. So when we speak of things being lost or things being destroyed, they don't go out into oblivion. They just change their state. So the energy is there and the energy remains. I don't see ghosts. I don't see energy, but I feel it. I feel negativity and I feel positivity. And I am learning and growing more in being a witch in those concepts. And I am just freer and more open to be myself to others. I've always been myself to those the closest to me, but now I'm letting other people inside to see the person that I am and the thoughts that I have. So I hope this video has answered some of your questions. I hope that maybe you can read some of the books that I recommended or the magazine article, possibly watch something. But whatever you do, believe in yourself, trust your instincts, trust your own knowing, and you'll be fine. If you want to talk to me about things, not in a public venue, if you want to send me a message and we can talk privately, I would be happy to do that. And I think we all deserve to have someone listen to us without prejudice, without bias, with an open mind. So on that, I will tell you all goodbye until the next video. I think the next series that I will do will focus on travel, because that was the tying thing that we voted on was to see some of my travels. And that will be more than one video, as I said before. So those will come next. But for now, take care.